Hello, welcome back to the podcast Journey to Well. My name is Hannah. I am chatting today with Bill Goodwin. He is such an amazing energy, Bill. I have to say, I really love your energy when we hopped on our connection call, and now that we're connected. So I'm very excited for the energy that we have to bring to today's podcast, which is talking mainly about the framework of your book, but it is talking about 7 pillars of personal development, personal growth, how we can go on this self-discovery journey and obviously learn from your self-discovery journey and the burnout that you went through and experienced in your life and moving through that. So Bill is a leadership and personal development coach, a hope strategist. I love that lingo. I love people's creative titles for who they are and what they do. But if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that my favorite question is actually the first question, which is, who is Bill? Who do we have the pleasure of learning from today? And anything that you'd like to share about Bill Goodwin.
Well, Hannah, it is so amazing to connect with you and to be with you today. So who am I? Wow. Well, I am a hope strategist
Mm-hmm.
and I love to add value to individuals. I really focus in on adding value through leadership because everything rises and falls on leadership. And leadership isn't a position or title, it really is the way in which we influence others. And so I love helping people to develop themselves so that then they can influence and lead others better as well. So for me, I'm a speaker, an author, a coach, and yeah, I just try to live every day to try to shine a little light into the dark world around us. And leave a little salt to make things a little bit better. So, yeah, that's who I am, and I'm really glad to be with you today.
Thank you for coming. That was an interesting thing you just said about leadership, that it's not a position or a title. And that's actually right off the bat such an interesting
Mhm.
thing to dive into, because when I think of leadership, I think of people that are in leadership positions, CEOs, CFOs, pastors,
Mhm.
public speakers, people who are actively leading and guiding other people within their community or within their job, vocation, whatever. So dive into that. What is all of that you just said? How did you arrive at this standpoint of it's not just what you do, it's how you
Yeah,
are.
absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm very grateful that I have some incredible leadership people in my life as mentors and guides. And one of them is known as the number one best-selling author and leadership expert. John C. Maxwell is one of my personal mentors. And so John defines leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And really leadership starts with ourself, and that's where the personal development, personal growth comes in, because it's one thing to think we're leading others by telling them what to do, so to speak, and that's not really leading, by the way. But we think that leading others is telling them what to do. But really, leadership starts with ourselves. It's how are we leading ourselves? How are we showing up to ourselves? And oftentimes, at least for me, the hardest person to lead, Hannah, is myself. It's easy to guide others, to direct others, to rally others towards a vision and a direction. But then I have to always come back to myself. How am I leading myself? I can't give away what I don't have. So, most people accept their lives instead of leading their life. And so I have to lead my own life, and I have to make, the commitments to myself, whether it be about my health or whether it be about my mental health or whether it be about, so many different areas of my life that I have to focus on for myself first, so that then I can be in a healthy place in order to lead and guide others. So one of the aspects that I teach is called the 5 levels of leadership. I won't go real deep in the weeds on it right now, but the first level of leadership is a positional level. And that's when somebody does get a position. Maybe they become a supervisor, or they become, they have a couple people under them, basically. And we like to say at the positional level, the level one leader, people follow you because they have to. You're their boss, you're their supervisor. And that's an okay place to start, but that's not really where you want to lead from. You don't want people following you just because they have to. You want to move at least up to level two. Level two is about relationships. It's about connecting with the people you're leading in such a way that now they don't follow you just because they have to, but they follow you because they want to. And they're like, wow, I really enjoy being around Hannah, and she's such an encouraging, and she has an interest in me as the person who's on her team. And then we move to level three, which is really all about productivity. We accomplished something together in our leadership or with our team, and now people, like, they rally together because, yes, it's not just because they have to or because they have a connection in a relationship, but it's about, well, we're productive together and making a business happen or making something take place. And then we move to level four, which is the people development, where we as the leader are now not just having followers, but we're creating new leaders, and we're empowering people, and we're raising them up into leadership of some sort of themselves. And so that gets us to level four. And then finally, level five, which I can go really deep in all of these, but just to touch on it, level five is really the pinnacle. It's the spot where it takes many years to get to the point to where we look up to this leader and we revere them for the way that they treat others, the way that they've produced, by the way they've developed others, and their life of integrity, or what all of the components that make up this really high capacity, high road leader. And that takes many years that we begin to say, wow, I really admire this person because of the difference they made in my life and in our organization. So yeah, leadership really is a lot more than a position. It really comes down to how we impact others positively.
Mm, yeah, and isn't it so much easier to lead to lead others? I was thinking when you were saying it's easier to lead others than lead, or it's hardest to lead yourself, is really what you
Mm-hmm.
said. The advice stuff that we say, it's so much easier to give advice than to take our own advice and actually
So
live
true.
our advice. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I definitely hold very high in value in my life, is if I'm going to tell my clients to do something, or invite my community to practice something, that I am doing that as well, if
Mm-hmm.
not more, and that I have some experience in practicing that. And I think that's really what you're kind of getting at in the difference between level one and level two leadership, which also made me think of, I think this was Tony Robbins that I first got this imagery from, but the difference between, pushing yourself to do something versus being pulled to do something. And that
Yes.
being pulled also creates magnetism. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
describing the difference between level one and level two, that's exactly what came to mind, is we're really magnetizing our community to us, or we're magnetizing, even if it is a leadership role that you were put into, like you're saying, like you achieve, you got
Mm-hmm.
promoted and you have a new leadership role, you can still be a magnetic leader, which would be kind of what I'm assuming
Yes.
level two is, versus you're just in this leadership role and not sure how how
Mm-hmm.
to lead. And is that also the difference between, um, or is that kind of that secret sauce between going modulating between one and two? Is that learning how to lead yourself? Is that kind of the framework, or is it something
That's
different?
also part of it. When our teams or our organization stalls, it's often because the leader stopped growing. So, and we're wanting everybody else to produce or whatever, but we have to also, again, look in the mirror and say, how am I growing myself? So that then I can, it's the law of the lid. The organization will only go a few degrees underneath the lid of the leader. So the leader always
Mm.
has to be growing their own lid so that the organization and the team underneath them can also be growing. Here's a couple other nuances since we're talking about five levels of leadership, is that when you're leading a team, let's say you got 5 people or 500, whatever, on your team, you're not just whatever level of leadership with that you're on with everyone. You're actually on all different levels with each person. So if you got a brand new person on your team, you're at level one with them. You need to realize they're only following you because they have to. You have somebody that maybe you've been connecting with and you've been building a connection with relationally. Now you're maybe on level two. Maybe someone's been there quite a while and you're developing them as a leader in your organization. You're on level four. So you're on different levels, or you're looking at your leadership differently from different level perspectives with each individual on your team, rather than saying, well, I'm a level four leader, I develop leaders. Well, you're not really with every person yet. You're really at different levels depending upon the connection and the length of time even that you have in relationship with the others on your team. So there's many different nuances when we kind of go into understanding more the principles of the levels of leadership. But really, at the end of the day, it comes back to this whole personal development of growing and leading ourselves.
Amen. I like that. It's different levels with everyone. I think that's really cool to embody
Mm-hmm.
even in different areas of our life, like the way that we're leading our families or our
Mm-hmm.
teammates or our work or our friends, or that's really cool. And so getting to how we lead ourselves, I think this is a beautiful segue into your book of the 7 pillars of priority living. What does priority living mean to you?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, priority living for me really is about being intentional with our life, and it's first determining what are the three, four priorities of your life, and then being able to schedule your life really around those priorities. And for me, this came about, as you know, from my book, from a backstory incident that took place in my life. I often quote the date November 23rd, 1999, when I had a severe asthma attack, which led to respiratory failure. And on that day, I literally coded. I died on that day before I was resuscitated. And in the book, I share the full afterlife encounter when I died, my spirit did leave my body, and I had an afterlife experience. And I unpack all that in the book. And from that time, Hannah, I realized I want to make my life count. Like, I've been given a second chance. I shouldn't be here anymore. And you don't have to die and be resuscitated to want to make your life count, right? We all do. We all want to make a difference. We all want to make an impact and have our life be meaningful. It was all the more prevalent and on my mind after this incident. I'm so grateful that I've been given a second chance. And so, not right away, I never set out to write a book. I never set out to create a framework called priority living. But just over time, I really began to be thinking about what are the things that I find valuable, that are priorities for me, that I want to be able to be intentional about. That's kind of that key word I keep using, is be intentional about in my life. And so, all these years later, it's really become this this framework of priority living, that I say it's the 7 pillars of priority living that lead to having a meaningful life.
So interesting, yeah, and what a wild experience. I've not had a near-death experience or
Mm-hmm.
coded before
Mm-hmm.
afterlife experience, but that is something that I share a lot about because often, well, what I share about is that we don't have to have these
Mm-hmm.
extremes. Oftentimes, that's what leads us to create change because there's a lot of psychology behind this and physiology behind this. Our bodies want to stay safe. And so it's doing what it's always done and being
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable. And I'm sure, I mean, reading your book, I actually know this for a fact that you did get uncomfortable in quite
Mm-hmm.
a few areas of your life. And that's what leads to change. And oftentimes it is these large events. Maybe it's quitting your job or losing your job. Maybe it's something you were thrown into or something you chose. Maybe it's moving. Maybe it's a breakup. Maybe it is a near death experience or an injury, but it doesn't have to be this huge
Right.
thing that we can
Mm-hmm.
choose right now to change our life. And I think this book is a really beautiful blend of sharing your lived experience of what you just shared and also the burnout that
Hmm.
you went through, and you're choosing to do it, take a different path and take a break and step back. And then also, I really like the framework because it's kind of helping you decipher. Like, we start with framework one, his purpose, which is, I think, isn't that like the most Googled question or something like that?
Hmm.
Of
Yeah.
like,
What's my
what,
purpose? I
yeah,
believe is
what
the
is my
most.
purpose?
Yeah.
Let's start there. I mean, how do you decipher what your purpose is
Hmm.
in your experience?
Yeah, in my experience. So, I always lean on the quote. I believe it was Mark Twain who said, the two greatest days in your life are the day you were born and the day you discover why. That's just so profound, isn't it?
Hmm.
And that's all about purpose. It's all about you. You are here for a reason, and it's not just to take up space or to get by until you die. It's really something more meaningful than that is why you're here. So in the book, I lay out 10 questions that help an individual look at their purpose. We talk about the difference between passion and purpose in that chapter. But I always believe that we start with purpose, that alignment. When you get purpose aligned, things start to fall into place in your life as far as your priorities go, because now you got clarity on purpose. And I always believe that clarity precedes peace. So, friend, if you're longing for peace, get some clarity, because clarity always precedes peace. If you want to be more successful, clarity always precedes success. It's not, well, I hope someday, I'm going to work harder. So someday, no, when we get clarity, we can have peace. And when we get clarity, we're headed in the right direction, to be successful, however you defined successful. So, we start with purpose, and I love the definition of purpose being, purpose is the best of what you have to help others. So purpose is really outward focused. It's really the best of what you have to help others. And there are some key elements the research tells us that make up our clarity on our purpose. So one we would call your natural advantage. It's the way you were made. It's the way God created you. You're wired up for success. You're wired up to be effective once you get in that zone, in that lane of your designed purpose, and you get purpose aligned. So that's your natural advantage. We also know that you have acquired skills. We all do, and that's through education, through life experience. We've developed some acquired skills, and that lends itself towards our purpose. We also have a pull passion. It's interesting you were talking about pulling versus pushing. Our pull passion are the types of problems that we are drawn to solve. So whether it's, we want to help with trafficking, or we want to make a difference in the life of rescuing animals, or working with children, or whatever it is. There's an innate ability and desire in each of us to solve certain types of problems in the world, and that is called your pull passion, and that's pulling you. It's drawing you. And when you're in that zone, you're like, I am feeling so alive right now. And then the final element, really, the research tells us with our purpose discovery, is having to do with what's called your origin strength. So in our upbringing, we have an origin story from the ages 2 to about 16, and in that time frame, all of us have different experiences, of course, but we all go through different things. We all go through possibly some things like rejection, or some of us may have trauma, or abuse, or neglect. There's different types of things that and in varying degrees of that as well. But 80% of adults, research tells us 80% of adults experience some significant rejection between the ages of 2 and 16. So it could be from one of our parents, it could be from a sibling, it could be from a close friend. And that puts a mark on us in a way. But it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be flipped towards a strength of how you overcame that in your adulthood, and that becomes your origin strength. Those elements that I just mentioned are all coming together to help wire us so that we can fulfill our purpose. So there's one other component here to purpose that I want to share, and that is that we're all looking for our purpose. It's a discovery process for us. I'm going to share how we can simplify that discovery process so we can get clarity on our purpose. But what we're ultimately longing for is the results of purpose. When we are living our purpose, Hannah, which is giving the best of what we have to others, we in return receive fulfillment. And that's when the endorphins go off in your brain. That's when you go, oh, I love what I get to do. I'm feeling so alive. I could do this all day long. That is the fulfillment that we're receiving as a result of living our purpose. And so I love to coach people on how to experience fulfillment on demand. Think about that. I can
Hmm.
receive fulfillment on demand in living my purpose
Hmm.
when I understand key indicators of how I experience that fulfillment, and then I'm looking for ways I can give the best of what I have to others, so that on demand I can receive that experience of fulfillment. And it's something that I'm very passionate about because I see how it's life changing. And the research shows us that when we are living our purpose, then we end up in our work life, we end up having greater retention at work. There's greater fulfillment at work. There's more productivity at work in our work life when we have a portion of our purpose is aligned with the type of work that we're doing. Your job is not your purpose. It's one of the ways that you can fulfill your purpose, but your purpose is obviously much bigger than just your work.
That's really true. And I think on a kind of basic level, a lot of times we do think when we maybe start this journey that our purpose is our job, which it can be parts of it, right? Like you're
Mhm.
saying, like a big part of my purpose is this podcast, and I'm
Yes,
living out my purpose by doing this podcast, but it's not
absolutely.
the only thing. My question is, does your purpose change throughout your life?
Yeah, I would say it a little different. I love the question. Purpose doesn't change, but it does evolve. So you may be in a similar direction, but it just evolves over time. So for me, I was passionate when I was in my 20s and early 30s. I was really passionate about the next generation. So I was working with teenagers, and I was adding value to teenagers. Well, over time, I'm still doing similar types of things of giving the best of what I have to others, but now my focus is more in the coaching lane. It's more with business people and people running organizations. But so my purpose itself hasn't changed, the overarching purpose of the way that I give the best of what I have to others. But what it has done is it has evolved to where it might be a different segment of population. I do believe that that when we want to discover our destiny, which is kind of like our purpose, but I believe that our destiny is a people. It's a people group. So oftentimes we can when we get clarity on like who is it that I'm to serve, who is it that I'm to add value to, then all of a sudden we're like, oh, this is part of my destiny. This is how I fulfill my purpose at this stage in my life is with this person or type of people.
I like that. That gives it a lot more of a outward kind of worldly approach than
Mhm.
almost putting all that pressure on yourself of what is my purpose. I think that's a different perspective that you can take of how is this going to shape other people in my community and in the world, people maybe that I don't
Yes.
even communicate with and touch upon in my daily life. I like that a
Mhm.
lot. And I like the evolvement because it's kind of reminding me of maybe two and three, pillars two and three of growth and impact. Of I would assume that your purpose can evolve as you are growing and having that growth mindset of, I mean, for me, that's something that's just a core value. I
Mhm.
was listening to a podcast, I don't even remember what it was, and kind of even studying the psychology behind having a growth mindset might be interesting because I know that mine is probably very influenced by my mom,
Mm.
who is a lifelong learner. Like she's had
Mhm.
so many lifetimes within this one lifetime, and that's been that way. She's been that way since I was
Mhm.
born. And so really, I think having that model of constantly learning and growing and developing. And this is also where you can get into human design, because that's something that I do in my business. And
Mm-hmm.
she and I have one of the same kind of personality numbers is what it's called. So if you have that one line, you are a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so the growth piece I'm interested in. You kind of talk about that need to really, again, going back to self, that need to understand yourself in order to grow and in order to then have an impact on your immediate world and the expanded world.
Mm-hmm.
What has that growth journey looked like, and how has that felt for you in your life?
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful. I love that you're talking about your mom and her influence on your life. Isn't it true? There are people that can make such a difference in our life. So
Mm,
yeah, we're sitting here having a podcast conversation. If we're like just sitting here having coffee together, Hannah, I would ask you, what are you doing to grow yourself?
mm,
And what are you doing to grow others? Those two great questions.
mm,
And in my life, and then you probably read this in the book, that when I was a teenager, 16, 17, I have an uncle, Tom, who was a entrepreneur with my aunt Carolyn, and a very successful small business owner, but very much a person of personal development and growth, and took me under his wing, saw potential in me, began to began to share different books, and back in the day, this is dating myself, cassette tapes that he wanted me to listen to from Zig Ziglar and other great people, books from Og Mandino and Zig and others, and because he wanted to teach me about growing myself, and it was very, very influential because I looked up to him so much and really respected the person that he was, and so that's when my personal development journey started. And boy, did I need it. I was a teenager, like, I don't know, like so many in adolescence. You're just trying to find your way, you're just trying to find your identity. And it was through my uncle really pouring into me and taking an interest in me that I began on this personal development journey, which obviously now I've been doing for decades and decades. And I've come to learn, even from John Maxwell, that the answer isn't how long will it take to achieve things. The right question is, how far can I go? And so we want to be focused on how far can I go, like you said with your mom, being a lifelong learner, that we can always learn, we can always grow. And so there are many different aspects that I'm working on growing myself so that I can become better every day. And that also goes back to what you were talking about with purpose, that as I grow myself, now I have greater capacity. I'll probably look back at some point, Hannah, I'll look back at my first book and I'll go, oh my gosh, that book was awful. I've grown so much. I could add so much more to that book if I just rewrite it. And I think that's why some authors do a 10-year anniversary or 25-year anniversary of a book, because they're like,
yeah.
they have grown so beyond where they were when they wrote that book, that they're like, oh, I'm embarrassed by that book now because I've grown. So they see the gap between where they were then, although they thought they were in a good place, but they've continued to grow themselves. And now they're at a spot they're going, oh, I can do so much better now. And so our purpose does evolve. I mean, think about as our character evolves, as our integrity and as our consistency and all of these things begin to grow over time, as we're learning from others, mentors and podcasts like yours and books and so on. We're growing ourselves, and so we truly, the phrase is not just cliche, it's like we truly are a better version of ourselves as we're growing ourselves. And so yeah, so then our purpose can also evolve in that too, where we now have the capacity to actually be more influential, of connecting with more people, because we've grown ourselves and we aren't where we once were.
I really love that word. There's certain words that really stand out and resonate with me, and capacity is one of them. We talk about
Mm-hmm.
capacity a lot, expanding your capacity in breath work. When I'm a breath work practitioner, and when I lead breath work classes, and the breath is just a really great image, right? Of even this, what we're talking about, as we expand our breath, as we take a deeper breath, even as you're listening, see the next couple breaths, how much deeper you can breathe, and then how much more you can breathe out. That's expanding. That's like, if you're watching the video, you're kind of like ebbing and flowing, right? You're expanding out and
Yes.
then you're contracting, and you're expanding out and contracting. And that to me is what growth is. And I love that extra added component of, as we are expanding that capacity, then we're expanding our purpose, we're expanding our impact, we're really growing ourselves, our life. And I do love that lifelong learning. And I think that we all
Yeah.
have a little bit about that. I've had other people, who was it? Somebody just came on the podcast and they said, like, if you stop, once you stop learning, once you stop growing, you die. Like,
Hmm.
that's the end.
We're either growing or we're dying.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So I know there are people who died at 25, but they just didn't
yeah.
bury them until they were 80.
Ooh.
I mean, it's just a matter of, are we growing ourselves? Are we intentional about growing ourselves? I love what you're talking about, capacity, and see if
Mm.
I can share this quickly. It's a story that true thing that I learned. Heard Craig Rochelle share. He was in a swimming pool at a community event, and he met a guy there who said to him, "I bet you can't hold your breath underwater for a minute." And Craig's comment is, "Why would one man say that to another man? Because he knows he's going to take him up on that challenge." And so he took a deep breath. He went underwater. He's holding his breath, and he could hear the guy counting because he pulled his watch out. He hears him counting. You're at 15 seconds. You're at 20 seconds. And by about 30 seconds, Craig's like, "I think I'm going to die. I'm not coming up though. I'm gonna stay under here." And finally, he burst up out of the water, and he made it for a minute because he heard the guy talking. And he was so thrilled that he made it. And then the guy says to him, "I bet you can't do 2 minutes." And he's like, "Oh," he goes, "That's pretty good for your first time. I bet you can't do 2 minutes." And Craig's thinking, there's no way someone can do 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And so this gentleman begins to tell him he's a executive coach, and he coaches people because the reality is, and this is the great phrase why I'm telling you the story, that the reality is our mind doesn't understand the capacity of what our body can do. Our
Mm,
mind has we have a belief system that doesn't think we can do what we're capable of doing.
mm,
And so we have to do things to keep growing our mindset so that we can do it. Well, anyway, fast forward. He teaches Craig, this is what you do. When you're gonna take in 4 deep breaths, in and out, in and out. You're gonna expand your lung capacity. Then you're gonna go underwater, keep your eyes closed, and stay real still. Don't flail around like you just did. You look like a fish. Just get real still. And then when you think you can't stay any longer, just a little puff of air, just blow it out. It'll trick your brain. They'll think it's going to get oxygen again. You'll be able to stay under there longer. Then open your eyes, focus on a little dot or something in the water. Just focus on that, and you will do 2 minutes. And Craig's thinking, there's no way. I'll
mm.
probably do a minute 5 seconds, if that.
Yeah.
So he does what he said. He does the 4 breaths. He goes underwater. He stays real still, and the guy starts telling him how long he's in there. You're doing great. Don't come up. You can do more. You can do more. You're at 20 seconds. You're at 30 seconds. You're at 40 seconds. He says, but what I didn't know was he was lying to me when he said you're at 40 seconds. I was really at 50 seconds,
Yeah.
and so he's like, so then at one point I felt like my lungs started to contract, so I breathed out a little bit, and then I focused on something floating in the water. And when he said 2 minutes, he goes, I burst up out of the water. Oh, the guy was counting, and he says, and I didn't do 2 minutes. He said, I did 2 minutes and 45 seconds the second time. Isn't that a powerful story? I
Yes.
love hearing Craig share this story because
Wow.
it comes back to what you and I are talking about. Our mind
Mm,
isn't aware of what our body is capable of. And so that's an encouragement for our friend that's listening, Hannah, that someone needs to know you have more in you. You have more in you This is your year. Let 2026 be your year to get greater capacity. Sometimes people will say, as I'm a person of faith, they'll say, how can I pray for you? Well, I don't often have a prayer request, so to speak, but I'll say, pray for wisdom and pray for greater capacity.
Mm,
Pray for wisdom and pray for greater capacity.
mm.
And because when we have that wisdom and we have greater capacity, then we're able to accomplish more. And so anyway, I love that story from Craig Rochelle, and and I hope that's an encouragement to you as well. That
No, thank
we're not
you.
aware of what we're capable of.
It's so true. And I think that's, we were talking ahead of time. Part of my audience is people that are really interested in somatic work, which somatic work is just getting into the body. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something I love talking about is building that felt sense of safety, of capacity, of proof. We have to prove to our brains
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes and doing those little things, right? So even, the best trainers in the world, they tell you like do as many reps as you can and then do one more because you're showing
Yes.
your body that you can do one more than
One
your
more.
mind thinks that you can do, or hold your breath for as long as you can and then do 5 more seconds or 1 more second even,
Mm-hmm.
because you're proving to your mind. I love that. You're proving to your mind that your capacity is actually greater than you think in your mind, no matter what level that is. Like in this example, maybe you're holding your breath for 30 seconds, or maybe you're
Right.
holding your breath for 5 minutes. You're like, I can hold my breath for 2 minutes, whatever. Okay, then do it longer, but do it longer than your capacity is. It's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily so much about the specific number because everyone is going to be so different. But thank
Mm-hmm.
you for sharing that. And what a really great, obviously, we're recording this in January. So what a great reminder for 2026 of
Mm-hmm.
how can I, maybe that's your intention of how can I
Mm-hmm.
expand my capacity this year? Ugh, that'd be wild.
That's powerful. That's really
Yeah.
powerful. I attended a coaching blitz um, that was all about training us to be better coaches, and an area where I'm always desiring to grow so that
Mm,
I can help other people better. And at end of one day, they say, "Hey, tonight's we're going to do an activity together," and this is something that we've done many times with different groups, and we're going to expand your capacity here. And so, be open. So there's a little bit of teaching on mindset. It's all about mindset. And then they pulled out boards and they said, we're gonna break these boards. And I'm like, oh no.
love
Now
this.
I'm not a small guy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm thinking, oh no, well, that's my limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
That's my limiting. And they said, you're not going to break this board just by mere strength.
Yeah.
You're going to break this board by your belief system,
Mm,
by your belief. I have the capacity
yeah.
to break through. So then they say everybody gets a Sharpie, go select your board. So we all picked a board. Now there's men and women in this group, and quite honestly, there were some tiny gals from the Philippines that had flown in for this as well. And I mean, I'm a pretty big guy, and I was like freaking out, like I'm going to be so embarrassed if I can't break that board.
Yeah.
And but yet these gals, what were they thinking, right?
Mm,
So then we so then they give us a Sharpie and they say, okay, I want you to write your biggest fear, not about breaking the board in life. What's your biggest fear? My biggest fear is write it on the board.
mm,
And then we had a couple other questions and we wrote our answers to that, to those questions right on the back of the board or on the board. And then they said, we're going to break through your biggest fear tonight. This is a mental exercise of breaking through your fears.
mm.
And so so we went through a couple different repetitions of things to work on our subconscious mind that's telling us, I can't do this. I'm afraid to do this. What if I can't do this? That's all in your subconscious mind. We got to retrain our subconscious mind, have the right mindset. So then the time comes and the music is pumping and all that, and we get a partner and our partner's holding the board and they show you the action that it actually takes to thrust to do that board, but it's also your mindset. So man, I snapped that board like it's like bam. It was just like paper. It was like it snapped so easy. I was
Yeah.
and I was shocked. You're right. I was
Yeah.
shocked. Well, I'm looking around the room and all these boards are getting snapped, but some of them weren't getting snapped. And so some of these younger or smaller gals were hitting the board and like slapping their hand and going, ow, you know. Well, then I realized the teaching earlier in the day. It's the power of positivity. It's the power of those that are around you. So what did I do? I went over to one of the gals with her partner. I started to encourage her. I said, "You got this. You can do it. You've got the right mindset. You've got the power." Blah blah. I just started encouraging her. Well, then two, three, four others started to come around that had already broken their boards. We're all just speaking positivity into her, and she gets ready again, and she goes, bam, and she snaps it right in half, and she's jumping up and down, and she comes over and she hugs me, and she's like, "Oh my gosh." Here's the point to all this. Sometimes with our mindset, if we don't believe it's possible, we need to borrow somebody else's belief until we believe ourselves. Somebody needed to hear that today, Hannah.
Yeah.
Someone needs to borrow your belief in them until they believe it themselves. Or maybe you need to borrow somebody else's belief in you
Mm,
before you believe it yourself.
mm,
I love the words to friends and family to say the words, "I love you." Those are
mm,
powerful words. We don't hear those words enough. I don't
mm,
think they need to just be romantic words. I think they need to be friend words as well as I think we need to hear the words, "I love you" more.
mm,
But I also believe with everything in me, we need to share with one another, "I believe in you."
mm,
Hannah,
mm,
I believe in you.
mm,
It just does something on the inside of us when
mm,
someone else says, "I believe in you. I believe you have what it takes." And that's what I was able, and others in my group were able to go over to those that were breaking the boards, that they didn't have the belief in themselves yet. But when they heard that others believed in them,
mm,
bam, they were snapping those boards.
mm,
And that's just so life changing for ourselves. And there's times I need to tell myself, when I'm up against some difficult thing or something I've never done before, and I need to tell myself, I, I believe in you, Bill. You can do this. And a quick story, and then I'll pause here. But I have a he's 10 now. He's 9 at the time. Grandson who he doesn't have a phone, thankfully, but he does have an iPad, so we message each other. And I have to take what I can get. He's usually there quick, and then he's gone. So I said to him one day, he texted me something, and then I texted him back and messaged him back, and I said, "Oscar, I believe in you." And I screenshotted his response because his response was, "Papa, thank you for believing in me."
oh,
We need to hear the words, and we need to share the words, "I believe in you."
wow.
Someone in our life needs to hear, "Yes, I love you," but they also need to hear, "I believe in you."
Mm, mm. That's powerful. That's true. I'm gonna start saying that way more because yeah, I don't think that I say I love you. I love that conversation. I think that we should say I love you more. And I also think I'm gonna start petitioning we need different words for love because I
Yes.
get that hooks people up, that catches people up because love, maybe their definition of love is like reserved for their partner or for
Yeah.
their parent or their sibling, and there's so many different levels of love. But I love that. I believe in you. There's
Mhm.
so many stories. I think it's like Steve Harvey is one of them, and there's another very successful person that said, "I am where I am today because I think actually it's Tony Robbins, because somebody said that repeatedly.
Mhm.
They believed in me. That
Yeah.
and there's so many people. Those are just two people that I'm recalling right now. But there's so many people that you don't know. Like, well, you do know because you've had somebody hopefully listening. You've had somebody in one way or another say in one small aspect. Maybe it is breaking a board that has shown that belief for you, and that is just you can't change that. You can't, like, there,
Mhm.
even when you said it, to me, like, you feel it right in your heart. You
Yeah.
just feel this expansion, and you puff up a little and you're like, you're right. Yeah, like I can do it,
Yes.
whatever it is. And you don't even have to know what that
Hmm.
person is wanting to accomplish in their life. Just for you to say, I believe in you, and to genuinely mean it. I believe in your potential. I believe
Yes.
in what
Yes.
your is on your heart. It's on your heart for a reason. So even if it's not on my heart, I believe that you are capable of doing it because it's on your heart and because it's your calling. Like it's your
Hmm.
calling and it's on your heart for a reason. So
Hmm.
thank
One
you.
other
Oh,
phrase I'll just throw in there while we're talking about this is we don't hear it enough. We don't say it enough. And that is, I'm proud of you.
yeah.
That's kind of a given one there too. But right along with that, it's to hear someone say to us, "Hey, I'm so proud of you."
Yeah.
And when people go through difficult things, we all do. To hear somebody say, "I know it's been difficult for you, but I'm so proud of you."
Yeah.
Wow, that's just it.
Yeah.
You again, you feel that,
Mm.
it's another way that we bring encouragement to people.
Mm. I do the I'm proud of you a lot. I don't know why I don't
That's
do
good.
the I believe in you. But you're right. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean for the same reason. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's really one of the most beautiful things in yoga is at the end, there's a whole thing you can say like the light in me sees the light in you, but whatever however you want to say it,
Mm-hmm.
I see you. Those are words. I
I
believe in
see
you. I'm
you.
proud of
Great.
you. I see you. Like I see
Mm-hmm.
what you went through and I'm proud of you. I see you. Or I see
Mm-hmm.
what's on your heart and I believe in you.
So
It's
good.
really, right? It's just witnessing someone on a deep level and oh gosh, it's all about presence really. But yeah, such great reminders. Thank you. Thank you for all of that. What a
Mm,
conversation.
so good.
I have one last question, but before we wrap up, where can people I love your Instagram. So where can people connect with you, specifically Instagram, but where else can people connect with you
Yeah.
and give us the whole title of your book? I think you already have, but if I, and I
Hmm.
can certainly link it down below, but if somebody would love to
Sure.
get their hands on your book, how can they do that?
Yeah. So my book is Priority Living: 7 Pillars to Make Your Life Count by Bill Goodwin. You can get it on Amazon, ebook, paperback, hardcover on Amazon. Hopefully in 2026, I'm working towards an audio book as well, but those other ones are available. I want to give you a free chapter of my book. So if you'll go to PriorityLivingBook.com, or you can go to my business page, which is for Priority Living Consulting Group. That's simply PriorityLivingCG.com. I'll take you to the same place as the book uh, URL, and you can get a free chapter of the book, so you can have experience. Maybe if you want to do that before you purchase it on Amazon. And then I'm available, love to connect on social media at Coach Bill Speaks, at Coach Bill Speaks. And then I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook just under my name, Bill Goodwin, and love to connect with people there. I always have a growing opportunities of coaching that's coaching collectives that are groups as well as one-on-one. And I have a new school community that I've started this year, where people can connect. And so the links are there on my Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. You'll find access to my school community, SKOOL community. And yeah, I love connecting with people. And that's also one of the pillars, is connecting. So, or connect. So we'll talk about that another time. But Hannah, it's so great connecting with you. Thank you for the privilege to spend time with you and our listener friend that's joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Last question.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about alignment. So, what does living in alignment feel like to you in your body?
What does living in alignment look feel like?
Feel like.
Feel like? Well, I think for me, what I when I sense that I'm living in alignment is I'm living in a level of peace.
Mm,
And I said earlier that clarity precedes peace.
mm,
And for me, when I'm living my best, it's when I'm living a life of peace. I don't feel agitated. I don't feel chaotic. I don't feel scattered in my mind or my body, but I feel centered, and I feel a sense of calm and peace. and with me, I'm a go getter. I'm driven. So I'm energetic. I'm not necessarily peaceful and not moving, but I'm
Hmm.
peaceful and that's how I would say it feels for me. I often say that peace is my umpire. I want to be able to make sure that I'm checking the balls and strikes in my life by based upon the level of how peaceful I sense I am at any given time.
I like that distinction too. Peace doesn't have to be sitting, it doesn't have to be
Mm,
sedentary, it can be a moving thing, which is a really cool distinction that you made. So thank you. And thank you so
hmm
much for coming on the podcast. This was such a fun conversation, Bill.
What a pleasure. Thank you.